Good, Reb. Walk. Good boy. Good boy, Reb. Good boy. Woo. Good. Good boy, Reb. Good boy. Good boy. Good. Good, Reb. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy, Reb. Good boy, Rebel. Good. Let's go right. Good boy. That's a good boy, Reb. Oh, slow down. Good boy, Reb. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. What happens when I first start riding bareback with Rebel, it's different depending on who I'm riding, but if I'm in the beginning of my ride, what I do, because Rebel is actually quite a forward horse and has a lot of attitude, and it's only dependent on if he's in the mood as to whether I can actually do this. If he's not in the mood, it just doesn't get done, because I know that I'm not going to have much success. And what I mean by that is I can tell if Rebel, because Rebel can go wherever he wants right now. He's only doing this because he's choosing to, if he decided he wasn't in the mood, he could just run off. As you can see, there's no fence. So I have to pick my days. But what I do with Rebel is I do a lot of steering. The more steering I do, the more he's happy to listen, and it's like it makes him focus on what the job at hand is, rather than if I was to continually go in a circle, he would have a bit too much time to get bored and think about doing something else, because Rebel gets bored really quickly. He's incredibly intelligent, as I believe all horses are, but I mean Rebel is like, there's definitely something different about Rebel. He's if you watch what he's doing right now, he's actually making that up. I'm not asking him to do that. You see how he's just changed his style? He's trying to get me to say the G-O-O-D word, because he's inventing something, but he invented this one a long time ago. He does this to get good. So that I can explain what that was. When I start off with all of my horses, I reward certain behaviour. And one of the things that I reward, and when I say certain behaviour, I reward the behaviour so I don't use ropes, sticks and bits. What I mean is, I don't use much gear. I try to avoid as much equipment as possible. Then it's something I don't have to take away later, right? Also, I see people using side reins and things like that to get their horses to put their head in a so-called frame. Well, Rebel's doing the extreme. I actually never taught him what he's doing now. I never ever taught him to do that. He's exaggerated what I started off with. with him when he was young is the rewarding of him putting his neck lower and tucking his head in what other people would use side reins for. I just wait till they do it and then I reward it. So he's taken it upon himself to he cracks me up. I'm not asking him to do that at all. What he's doing with his head and neck is him. I'm just trotting around and he's doing this to try and encourage me to tell him he's G-O-O-D. Can't say that word or he'll stop. I kind of wish he wouldn't do it as extreme as what he's doing, but anyway. He thinks he's doing a good thing. Oops, I said that word. He slowed down. I didn't quite say it the same as I'm supposed to say it, did I, Reb? Good. Back up. So just another thing I'll add in there. You know when I said to you just then about I wish he wouldn't do it so extreme, because I never actually taught him to do that with his head down like that. That's his exaggeration of it. But because I still would prefer him to have a low neck rather than a high neck. I don't want to not reward him for it. So what I just did then was, he was doing it and I didn't reward him for it. But when he lifted his head up a little bit from that position, that's when I let him stop and let him know that he's G-O-O-D. He's doing it again now. So I'm not going to say that or let him stop. So what I'll do instead, good. I waited till he just came out of it, as you see. He was doing it and then he just came out of it, and then I can reward that. Just so I'm not rewarding the extreme. Rebel will still do it though, because I know Rebel, like I said, I know Rebel very well, and he thinks he's being fancy. Honestly, that is what he's thinking. He thinks he's being fancy. He does this other thing where he lifts his knees. Rebel. He does this other thing where he'll lift his knees to a point that he almost hits his own chin with his knees, and he's the one that did it. I didn't ask him to do it. He just thought, maybe if I exaggerate this fancy leg move, she might reward that, because I do free sessions and reward them for thinking, and that's the reason I get that kind of thing out of Rebel. So if Rebel feels like to me that he's speeding up a little bit or getting a little bit of attitude that might not be a good thing for me when I've got no gear on. Attitude's definitely not something you want if you're bareback and bridleless with no fences. So if he starts feeling a little bit like that, because like I said, he gets bored very quickly, as you would going around in circles. I wouldn't normally do this many circles, but for video's sake, I'm trying to avoid the shade over there, because if I was in the shade you won't see me. So what I do, as I was saying, if Rebel tends to speed up or show that he might have a bit of attitude, is I will start to do lots of steering. He has a fly on him. He's definitely one to tell you if something's annoying him, that's for sure. He's going to do that stuff again. If you just bring it up a little bit, Reb. And I wouldn't ever, with Rebel, actually with any horse, but definitely with Rebel, just wait till he's at a good spot. Good. I wouldn't start any cantering until I know that the cantering is going to go well. I set myself up for success rather than failure. And once I'm on the ground, it's a little too late, isn't it? So I'm not convinced that I'd be good to canter on Rebel yet. I might have to ride him for quite a bit longer before I did that. So we might get a few steps of it done, but we might not. I can always test him, and the other thing I'd do if I test him, what's bothering you, Rebel? If I was to test him, is I would test him going in the direction of the only side that has a fence, which is that side. Another thing to be smart about. The other horses are over there. There's horses over there. So if I was to canter, I'd canter now. Good. And the other thing I do is, something's really bugging him on his shoulder. The other thing I do is, I didn't plan on doing that, but this is just an example of if you're doing this kind of thing, bareback and bridleless, and you know your horse, as I do Rebel. If I think the moment's right to do it, that's the moment I'll choose to do it. And if it's not right, I won't. And as I was explaining it to you, it just so happened that I felt like he was really good, so I thought I'll take advantage of this and do some cantering. The other thing is, that's longer than I would have normally cantered in a row for the first canter. So something else to think about if you're going to try any of this stuff is that if you're going to do something like that and you're working up to being able to canter, you want to do it in short spurts. So just because you're trotting doesn't mean you trot 10 circles. Just because you're cantering doesn't mean you canter 10 circles and go, oh my God, he's cantering and I'm not falling off, I better keep going. Instead of having that thought, the thought you should have is reward short pieces. It's the same as every other thing in all of my videos, that I'll say that if you reward short pieces of good things, you get a lot more of that good thing. And as a different example, when it comes to a canter, for example, it's very important. It'll actually slow your horse down if you ask for a canter and then stop, and then ask for a canter and then stop, and then ask for a canter and then stop. Don't then make it too repetitive. You need to keep going, sometimes a bit longer than that. But what I'm saying is, if you want to get a canter and it's the right moment, I'll see if I can show you now, but I'll only be showing you if it is the right moment. Good boy, Reb, just trotting. Good boy, good boy. Turn right. And on a tight circle is actually ready. Good. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Good, Reb, back up. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. If you were to ask your horse to canter, only get a few steps of the canter and then stop. Then when you ask for the canter again and again and you do lots of short ones, it doesn't mean they're going to get faster and faster. They're actually going to think differently to that. They're going to think that they might have to stop in a minute. So they would be rather thinking slow rather than fast. I hope that makes sense. So if you, I don't know what that is. Rebel, there's nothing there. Come on. Good boy. And never make it the same either. Never make it always in the same spot, and never make it always after a trot. You could ask for a canter from a walk as well. So don't make things too repetitive. His trot has got a lot slower, as you notice. So this is what I was talking about. Oh, just as I said that, he's going to do his fancy stuff again. Just as I say that, he speeds up. This is what I meant about, you know, when you maybe ride for a while. If you're going to try this, ride for a while at a gait that you know is all going well before you try the next one. He just put in a burst. What was that, Rebel? Extended fancy trot. No, I'm not asking him to do this. We are just trotting and he's just trying to do something different. Rebel, come on, keep going. That's it, that's it. We're going to have to canter in a minute, Rebel, so you might want to pick your head up a little bit. Ready? Good boy. There's another thing with Rebel that goes to my advantage. He's getting a little out of hand now. Rebel's good boy. That's it. That's it. That's it. Good. What I was going to say there is you know my bridge is the word good. I also have a few words that if my horses are already moving and I want to tell them they're good but I don't want them to stop, I say that's it. So because my horses know that so well, this is why I say to you, skipping the basics in the beginning is not ideal. You need to get everything happening really solid before you try something like this. It works to my advantage is what I was going to say. So Rebel was thinking about getting faster and possibly not continuing on the circle that I was asking him to go on. I could tell he went a bit wide there, and I thought, oh, I think he's getting bored and he might want to do something of his own. So that's when I started talking to him, but I can't tell him GOOD because that would mean stop. I didn't want him to stop on a bad, and what I mean by bad is he was going too fast for my liking, and he wasn't steering how I would have wanted him to steer. So I didn't say good. I didn't say that. I said that's it. So it encourages him, and with Rebel, it's he knows that it means he's being good. And if I tell Rebel he's good on the borderline of being good and not so good, he then becomes good. So he becomes what I tell him. If I say good, he's much better to the right, by the way, when it comes to the canter. So Rebel, let's go to the left. That's it. We better unwind you. We've been doing a little bit too much to the right. So yeah, I need to encourage him to be good by telling him he's good. Positive reinforcement before he's actually completed the task, but it does encourage him to choose that. Do you want to trot, Brad? No trotting. That's it. That's it. Good boy, Brad. That's it. That's it. Because he listens to everything that I say, whether he chooses to do what I say. I mean, listening with his ears. He's listening to what I say. That's it, Rab. Not the fancy thing. Don't do the fancy. Don't do the fancy, Rab. Just be normal. That's better. That's it. That's it, Rab. That's it. Not that. Oh, now it's this way. That's it, Reb. I just want to complete this by getting a small canter to the left, which is never as good as the right. Are we ready? Good, Reb. That's it. That's it. That's it, Reb. That's it. Good boy. That's it, Reb. Good. And I quit while I'm ahead. You could see my circle, he took a different path, and you could see his head and his neck looked quite different. So I'm just going to reward him for that. Hold on, let's just turn around. Reb, good. Turn around. Good. He definitely listened to me then. You see, that's what I'm talking about. There's a fly. There's these flies. Yes, it's to your advantage if your horse listens to your words. If I didn't have that as a tool, I could almost guarantee you that I wouldn't have been able to achieve that then. I would say Rebel would have probably got faster and faster, and then he would have, and this is because of him being him, and I know him so well, he would have got faster and faster, and then he would have not turned at all. He would have just run over to be with Remy and Zorro. So, just so you can see, these are my Fair Rider spurs. You can't see the name on them because they're so dirty. They're made of plastic and they're rounded. They're like a round boot end. I have a video which shows them up close if you want to have a look at that. That's what I use when I'm bareback and bridleless. It just makes it easier to use the buttons. So Rebel has his rear end button, his shoulder button, which is good. His other shoulder button, other way. Good. And his other rear end button. Good boy. Good, Reb. It's your itchy chest, it's the flies. I know. Good boy, Reb. Anyway, that's just a bit of what Rebel's up to with his bareback and bridleless. It's a work in progress, but I still like to try and achieve these things without a fence, because it does mean that it's real. If I was fully fenced, it's not quite real. It means the choice is not his completely to be here. He could definitely just run off and do whatever he wanted to do, and he chooses not to, which is great. So as much as I know I could achieve a lot more if I had a fully fenced arena, I also know that it's a great test to see what I can get done without having a fenced arena. So pretty happy with that, and to know who Rebel is, having had him his whole life and know his attitude, it's quite an achievement to know that I can do what we're getting done at the moment. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions about bareback and bridleless riding, feel free to put it in the comments, and I'll try to answer and maybe do a video on the question, because we all have to start somewhere, as I did. It's just a great thing to start with if you are starting out. Start bareback with a bridle or bareback with a halter. It just makes you learn to get your balance, and balancing when they change directions is key, because if your horse ends up going in a different direction to what you're thinking they're going to go, that's the only time I've actually ended up on the ground doing bareback and bridleless stuff, is with good old Bolt there, who's like super good at it. It was actually in this arena, and I was I was going on a circle mentally and physically. I was going on a circle to the right, and he slightly he thought we were going to go to the left, and he started going to the left, and as soon as he changed his direction, when I was all ready for right, he went left and I went whoop, on the ground. Luckily I didn't hurt myself. It's really nice sand in my arena, so it's nice and soft. But yeah, make sure you practice a lot. You don't just start at level 10. You have to start at level 1 and work your way up and do little tiny bits of it. Little tiny bits of positive will get you a long way, whereas if you try and push for too much and it ends up on a negative, that's when you end up with nothing. You end up with a lot of bad habits and a lot of bad things going on. So yeah. Anyway, that video actually wasn't meant to happen today, but like I said, I've got to pick my moments when I've got them. And Rebel was happy to do this today, so we ran with it, didn't we, Reb? Hey, you're a good boy. I'll see you on the next one. Good, Reb.